Beneath the surface of our waking lives, where the ego strides with measured confidence, there exists a shadowed theater, an arena where unseen forces clash in silent, ceaseless combat. This is the secret battle within, the realm Carl Jung spent his life mapping. A labyrinth of light and darkness where the self is both warrior and battlefield. To speak of Jung is to speak of the uncharted depths, the subterranean rivers of the unconscious that shape our thoughts, dreams, and destinies without our conscious consent. Imagine the human psyche as a vast and ancient forest. Above, the sunlight dapples through the leaves, illuminating the well-trodden paths of logic, identity, and societal norms, the world as we believe it to be. But beneath this canopy, in the undergrowth where roots tangle and unseen creatures stir, lies the true terrain of the soul. Here, archetypes, timeless, primordial patterns, whisper in the language of myth. The hero strides forth, only to be ambushed by the shadow. The anima and animus dance in eternal courtship, while the wise old man watches from the depths. Jung's work reveals that we are not singular, but plural, a congress of voices, some harmonious, others at war. This is not merely psychology, it is cosmology of the self. The battles fought in this inner realm ripple outward, shaping relationships, civilizations, even the course of history. To ignore this struggle is to live as a stranger in one's own mind, mistaking the tip of the iceberg for the whole. Jung's genius was in showing that the path to wholeness, individuation, requires not the suppression of these hidden forces, but their integration. The darkness must be faced, the fragments reclaimed. And so, we embark not on an analysis, but an expedition, a descent into the depths where the true self awaits, forged in the crucible of inner conflict. The journey is perilous, for to know oneself is to confront both the divine and the monstrous within. But it is also the only journey that matters. To navigate the secret battle within, one must first understand its players, the primordial forces that shape our inner world. Jung's psychology is not a static theory but a living map, charting territories where the personal and the collective unconscious merge like rivers into a single, vast ocean. At its heart lies the concept of the shadow, that exiled part of ourselves we refuse to acknowledge, the repository of all we deem unacceptable. It is not merely our darkness but our unlived life, the instincts, desires, and potentials we bury out of fear or shame. Yet, like a specter banished to the cellar, it only grows stronger in exile, projecting itself onto others in judgments, attractions, and irrational aversions. Opposing, and yet entwined with, the shadow is the persona, the mask we present to the world. It is necessary, even useful, a social contract that allows us to function in the collective. But when mistaken for the totality of the self, it becomes a gilded cage, separating us from the raw, untamed depths of our true nature. The tension between these two, the hidden and the displayed, creates the first fault line in the psyche, the first battleground of Jung's secret war. Then there are the anima and animus, the soul images bridging the conscious mind to the deeper unconscious. The anima, the feminine principle in a man's psyche, and the animus, the masculine in a woman's, are not mere stereotypes but living energies, shaping how we love, create, and relate. When unrecognized, they manifest as irrational infatuations, bitter animosities, or artistic obsessions. But when integrated, they become guides, leading us toward wholeness. And presiding over all is the self, the archetype of totality, the hidden blueprint of our fullest potential. It is the sun around which the other archetypes orbit, the magnetic north of individuation. To move toward it is to engage in the most sacred of conflicts, the struggle to become who we truly are. These are not abstract ideas but living forces, as real as hunger or love. They shape our dreams, our relationships, even the cultural myths we cling to. To study them is to hold up a mirror to the human condition itself. The secret battle within is not confined to the consulting room or the pages of psychology textbooks. It has been waged since the dawn of human consciousness, etched into myths, fairy tales, and sacred stories that transcend time and culture. Jung understood that these narratives are not mere entertainment but coded revelations of the soul's journey, each one a reflection of the archetypal forces at play within us. Consider the ancient tale of the hero descending into the underworld. Whether it is Gilgamesh grieving Enkidu, Orpheus searching for Eurydice, or Inanna stripped of her jewels before the throne of Ereshkigal, these are not just adventures. They are allegories of the ego's confrontation with the unconscious. The hero's trials, facing monsters, solving riddles, enduring symbolic deaths, mirror the psyche's own struggle to integrate the shadow, to reclaim what has been lost or denied. Alchemy, too, becomes a profound metaphor for Jung's vision of inner transformation. The medieval alchemists sought to turn lead into gold, but Jung saw their work as a grand projection of the human desire for wholeness. The nigredo, the blackening, represents the dissolution of the old self, the moment when illusions crumble, and one must face the darkness within. The albedo, the whitening, is the purification, the emergence of insight from chaos. And finally, the rubedo, the reddening, symbolizes the birth of the true self, forged in the fires of inner conflict. The alchemist's laboratory was not just a physical space but the psyche itself, where base instincts and divine aspirations collide and coalesce. Even in modern stories, these patterns persist. The protagonist who must confront their darker twin, the mentor who vanishes at the critical moment, the enchanted object that grants power at a price. All are echoes of archetypal dramas. When Luke Skywalker faces Darth Vader, he is not just fighting an enemy. He is staring into the abyss of his own potential for darkness. When Neo in The Matrix chooses the red pill, he is not merely awakening to a fictional reality but enacting the universal human journey towards self-awareness. These narratives resonate because they are not just stories. They are maps, guiding us through the labyrinth of our own inner wars. The battle within is not a pathology but a necessity, the friction that generates the pearl. To shy away from it is to remain fragmented, a collection of masks and defenses. But to engage with it, through dreams, art, relationships, or introspection, is to step onto the path of individuation, where the self becomes both the sculptor and the stone. The great paradox of Jung's secret battle is that while it unfolds in the depths of the unconscious, its resolution must be forged in the tangible world, in our relationships, our work, and the quiet moments of introspection that shape our days. To integrate these shadowed forces is not an esoteric exercise but a daily practice, a slow turning toward the parts of ourselves we have neglected or feared. Consider the simple act of projection, when we react with irrational intensity to another person's behavior, seeing in them what we refuse to acknowledge in ourselves. This is the shadow at work, and the moment we recognize it is the moment we reclaim a fragment of our disowned power. Relationships become the alchemical vessel where these projections are tested and transformed, where love is not just an emotion but a crucible for growth. Even our professional lives are not immune to these archetypal currents. The perfectionist who burns out chasing an impossible standard is often at war with an inner critic, a tyrannical voice that mistakes harshness for wisdom. The creative who struggles with blocks may be resisting the anima or animus, the intuitive, imaginative force that demands expression but terrifies the orderly mind. To work with these energies rather than against them is to move from resistance to flow, from frustration to a deeper engagement with one's craft. The workplace, then, is not just a setting for productivity but a modern-day arena for the soul's unfolding, where the battles of identity and purpose are fought in deadlines and collaborations. And then there are the solitary moments, the morning journal entry, the evening walk, the sudden flash of insight in the shower, when the unconscious whispers its truths. These are the modern equivalents of ancient rituals, the spaces where the ego loosens its grip and the self can speak. Jungian therapy, dream analysis, or even artistic expression are not escapes from reality but ways of honoring the invisible architecture of the psyche, the hidden currents that shape our visible lives. To dismiss them as impractical is to ignore the very forces that drive our decisions, our fears, and our deepest longings. The real-world implication is clear. The secret battle within is not a distraction from life but the very core of it. To engage with it consciously is to stop being swept along by unconscious currents and to begin steering, however imperfectly, toward wholeness. The conflicts we face externally, in politics, in culture, in our families, are often reflections of this inner struggle, collective shadows demanding recognition. The personal, as always, is political, because the psyche is the bedrock of all human action. We began this journey by peering into the hidden theater of the psyche, where archetypes clash and the self is both the battlefield and the prize. We have traversed the core themes, the mythic narratives, and the practical implications, arriving at an inescapable truth. The secret battle within is not a problem to be solved but a mystery to be lived. Jung's genius was in showing that the path to wholeness is not one of avoidance but of confrontation. Not with weapons, but with awareness. The shadow must be befriended, the anima and animus courted, the persona seen for the mask it is. This is the alchemical work, the slow turning of lead into gold. And so the call is simple. Though the task is vast, have the courage to descend, to sit with the discomfort of your own contradictions, to trace the threads of your dreams, to recognize that every irritation, every obsession, every inexplicable longing is a clue to the self you have yet to become. The world does not need more perfected personas. It needs more integrated souls. People who have faced their inner chaos and emerged not unscathed, but undivided. The secret battle is not yours alone. It is the human condition. But in wrestling with it consciously, you join the lineage of those who have turned their wounds into wisdom and their darkness into light. The forest of the psyche is vast, and the path is seldom clear, but it is the only path worth walking. Will you take the first step?